Okay, hopefully we can finish it up on this one. We need to factor here. First thing you always do is look for GCF, so something common. There is nothing common with 21 and 11 and 2. All of them are prime. So you are stuck with this trinomial. And since there is a coefficient other than 1 in front of your quadratic term, this is the hard kind. So we've got to think of our different possibilities. What two numbers do you know of that multiply to 21? Well, that would be 3y and 7y. Okay. Now we've got to think of two numbers that multiply to give us 2. That would be a 1 and a 2. So I don't know if it's 1, 2 or 2, 1. I'm going to have to test it out to see. Okay? So, and we do that by checking our middle terms. Remember, you multiply to get there. So here we go. And keep in mind, I'm trying to subtract to get to 11. So somebody's got to be bigger than 11. So I need the 2 here, right? Because 2 times 7 is going to give me 14, and that's bigger than 11. Well, I'd put a 1 here. 1 times 3y is 3y. So 14y minus 3y, yep, that's 11y. Everything's good. Now let's check our signs out. We have a minus in the back, which means my answer signs are going to be different. I look up front, the big pair is a plus. So down here at the bottom, 14 is the big pair. Well, who helped make it? The 2 or the 1? Well, the 2 is the one that chipped in for the 14. So he's the one that gets the plus sign. So the other one has to be minus. It's the same basic idea over here. All they did was change the numbers around. So if you come in here and you factor, you're like, okay, what two numbers multiply to 2? Well, that'd be 2x and x. What two numbers multiply to give you 21? It's still 7 and 3. We're still subtracting to 11, so you've got to make sure that your 7 matches up with your 2, because that's still going to give you the 14. And put your 3 here, that's the 3x. They still subtract to 11 like they did right over there, so it's kind of weird that it worked out this way. Signs are different, so big one gets that one. So the one that chipped in for it is the 7 this time, so he gets the negative and that gets the positive. So yeah, the answers look totally different, but the mentality of it all was very similar. Okay, solve for x. Now these are the things that we did right there at the end, the very last time we had class. When we did it, we said the first thing you had to check for is make sure it was equal to 0. So this first one has a problem. 15x is on the wrong side. So 5x squared, that needs to go over and become positive 15x equals 0. Because you can only solve these things when they're equal to 0. Now you want to factor. There's a 5 that goes into everything, and everybody has an x. So when you take that out, 5 divided by 5 is 1. And he had 2 x's. I took 1, so he has 1 left. 15 divided by 5 is 3. He had an x, and I took it. So those are mine. I've got it factored out. Now I need to take each factor, and it doesn't matter if you separate the 5 and the x, that's fine. If you do, that would be 5 equals 0, which we talked about. Any number equals 0, that's nonsense. Then you're going to do the x equals 0. And then you're going to do x plus 3 equals 0. And we also talked about how these always work out to where they just change the sign. The alternative here would be if you had said 5x equals 0, you would divide both sides by 5, and the answer is still the same. It is still 0. So if you had done these two things together, you're still getting the same result because you're getting 0 here and you're getting a negative 3 here. Okay, keep going. Solve for w. Well, we already have equals 0, so we're good. When you go to factor, it's a trinomial. There's a 1 in front, so that makes it the easy kind. So read it from the back. What two numbers multiply to 4 and add to 5? That'd be 4 and 1. Need to put my w's in there. Signs are the same, both negative. All right, set them both equal to 0, and then solve them out. And when they hop over, remember they change signs. So anytime you cross the equal sign, you change signs. So these are my two answers. And remember we talked about whatever your largest power was, that's how many solutions you're going to get. This one's actually easier because it's already factored. You do have your equals 0, so everything's good, but they just did part of the work for you. So tell them thank you and roll with it. Set each one of them equal to 0, and then all you're going to do is move that thing over, and it just changes the signs. That's it. When you go from factors to zeros, that's it. Okay, now try not to get confused because 58 doesn't say solve. There is no equal 0, it just says factor. So you just want to pull it apart, and then you're going to stop. It is a binomial, it is subtraction, and oh my, those are all squares. So this is the difference of two squares. So the square root of y squared is y. The square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of x squared is x. So I need a 7x and a 7x. One needs to be minus, one needs to be plus. Remember the reason for that? That's going to be a negative 7xy. That's going to be a positive 7xy. They kill each other off. That's why your problem didn't have anything in the middle. Okay, almost there. So look at this one. Is there anything common? No, when you get to think about it, nothing from 9 goes into 64. So you can't do anything with numbers, and you can't do anything with letters because 64 doesn't have one. So if you get to thinking, those are perfect squares. So square root of the front and the square root of the back. Let's see here, the square root of 64 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And then my signs are going to be different, just like the problem before. All right, now this one gives you a hint right here. When you see that word completely, it's warning, warning, warning. Beware that you're most likely going to factor at least twice. So always start by looking for the GCF. And when you do that, you're like, oh, 4, 44. I bet you 4 goes in there. So let's take a 4 out. That's going to be w squared minus a 9. No, that's 11. Now, I'm assuming 4 goes into 72. Let's see here. 72 divided by 4 is, 18. So that works. Now, when you look at what's inside the parentheses, that's a 1 in front of the w squared, so that makes it an easy kind. Read it from the back. What two numbers multiply to 18 and add to give you 11? Well, that would be 9 and 2. I need some w's. Signs are the same. Both are negative. Put your negatives in. You have factored. Okay, is that all of them, or are we done? Yep, that concludes it. I hope these videos help you get ready for your exam, because I'm hoping that you guys ace it. You've worked really hard, and I'd love for y'all to finish with a bang. So, happy studying.